I don't know where I heard it, but there's a saying about horror movies. Once the mascot character is in a lunchbox or a t-shirt, it stops being scary. In the case of horror games, you can probably say that they stop being scary once there are multiple sequels. Resident Evil, once an innovator of survival horror, is a series that I no longer find particularly horrifying. Especially once you've completed more than one, you kind of know all the tricks in the book and the scares stop being so scary. But then Resident Evil 7 Biohazard came along. Not only did this game completely turn what Resident Evil fans thought they knew about the franchise on its head, it even threw me for a loop from the completionist angle. This by far is one of the most difficult and perhaps one of the most frightening games in the series to complete to date, though not for the reasons you might think. But here's a really cool personal element to all of this for me. While Resident Evil 7 was ramping up for launch, I received this.
This is bad. Real bad. Andre's dead. He's bleeding from his f***ing eyes, leaking blood all over. And Clancy, I don't even know where the f*** he went. The Baker family, that's f***ing crazy. Ah! Listen, I don't care what you do or how you get it to him, but this needs to get the tape. It needs to get to the completionist. You hear me? Get this to the completionist. Ah! What the fuck? I can't take this anymore. These people, these freaks. You gotta get the tape. You gotta get here. You gotta. Ah!
Holy sh**. When Resident Evil 7 finally came out 7 freaking years ago, I got the opportunity to play the game a little early. Capcom made videos like these for lots of the influencers they were working with. They gave me a personalized video with the videotape and a VHS player. I have been wanting to complete this game for such a long time to share this with you all, but it's taken me a long time because since 2017, the games industry has moved so quickly. And as the DLC has come out, the true completionist aspect of Resident Evil 7 has evolved a ton. It's one of those games where getting all the trophies is not enough for completion. So I'm happy to finally say today that I have completed Resident Evil 7 and all of its DLC.
Yes! All glory goes to the winner.
I think the more personal horror becomes, the scarier it becomes. Resident Evil 7 game director Koshi Nakanishi said this in an interview with Forbes magazine way back in 2017. This was in response to a question about what makes horror, well, horrifying, and helped explain the approach Capcom took in creating a new approach with this Resident Evil entry. In the years leading up to 7's release, the series had increasingly focused on action over scares. Now, this isn't a bad thing by any means, and one could argue that it's a natural progression for any horror franchise. Just look at Alien to Aliens, or Terminator to Terminator 2. Or maybe that's just a James Cameron thing. Resident Evil 4 and 5, I haven't touched 6, are incredibly fun games and remain some of my favorites to complete. But I never really felt the fear that the original games inspired. Nakanishi and Capcom wanted Resident Evil 7 to feel special and unique. This game was part of a 20th anniversary celebration, so they wanted it to feel extra memorable. They ripped up the established playbook of what to expect from the series and laid out a totally new vision. Capcom producer Jun Takuishi said that while building Resident Evil 7, our team focused on how to make the series feel fresh while maintaining its core elements, like how to shock and surprise users as how much the first game did. It's not always possible to recapture that feeling, but when making Resident Evil 7, the developers tried to evoke the feeling of playing Resident Evil 1. They made several design choices to increase the tension and make the long-running franchise feel new again that are kind of obvious now, but at the time felt revolutionary, making the protagonist an ordinary dude while seemingly no ties to any established characters from before, putting the game in first-person perspective, and placing the player in a claustrophobic, genuinely disgusting, highly detailed environment. The game was even designed to be played in VR, a first for the series. That original VR demo at the dinner table was a high point, and the fact that they made the entire game playable in VR showed that Capcom knew they had a great idea on hand. Capcom even developed an entirely new graphics and gameplay engine, the RE engine for this title, to keep production efficient and focused. And to this day, they use the RE engine for almost all their games. The team wanted to pay homage to the long established history, but still make something novel. I'd say in all the ways that matter, they succeeded. When I initially played this game and got the platinum right around when the game first came out, I was blown away. For the first time in a long time, when I played a Resident Evil game, I was scared the entire time and I loved it. Multiple perspective shifts, tricky puzzles, insane gore, with some throwbacks to the series along the way, and truly revolting moments kept me totally engaged and thrilled. Every horror game draws on tropes as shorthand to frighten the player, and the inspirations of Resident Evil 7 are clear to see. Saw, Insidious, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Conjuring. At times, it feels like a super messed up grindhouse version of The Exorcist. Part of what really worked for me is that the plot feels completely removed from all things Resident Evil. Well, at least at first. Ethan Winters, the player character, is just a man trying to find his lost wife, Mia. She's been missing for a long time, so when he receives a random message from her, he can't help but heed the call and see if she truly is alive. He ends up at a massive estate in the middle of nowhere in some swamp in Louisiana. And then the nightmare begins as he's trapped by the Baker family. Ethan must fight his way out, attempting to save his wife and solve the mystery of what the hell happened here. But as is common for the series, once the completion mindset starts to set in, you'll pretty quickly stop being scared. Naturally, you'll become a bit numb to the story since you've got to play it multiple times. Crazy moments like reaching into a toilet to find an item or Papa Baker smashing through a wall to get you lose their shock value after once or twice through. Earning the platinum trophy for the base game is tough, but not overwhelmingly difficult by any means. A nice challenge for those who want to push themselves. But Resident Evil games always push the player to go beyond just earning the platinum, and Resident Evil 7 is no exception, especially after you factor in all the DLC content and those requirements. The Gold Edition, which I completed on PlayStation 4, adds a lot more to the experience, including many more trophies to earn. The base game has 38 trophies, including the platinum, but factor in the 13 additional trophies from Banned Footage Volume 1 and 2, 6 more for The End of Zoe, and another 2 for Not a Hero, and the total balloons up to 59 trophies all told. 1 or 2 specific tasks in the DLC absolutely ruined me, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but just know there's a reason that I picked up this game and put it down several times over the last several years. There are issues that compound across all the DLCs that aren't so bad in a vacuum, but really stack up once you put them all next to each other. You need to play the campaign several times to earn every trophy, a minimum of 3, once on easy or normal difficulty to unlock Madhouse mode, once again on Madhouse mode, and then a 4 hours or less speedrun on any difficulty. I've been playing this game on and off for years, and have probably beaten the campaign 5 or 6 times at this point, even after getting all the trophies. There are many collectibles to find across all difficulty modes. 20 Mr. Everywhere bobbleheads to destroy, which are very well hidden for the most part. You've got 32 files to collect that help flesh out the tragic story of the thoroughly messed up Baker family, Ethan Winters, and the conspiracy that ties everything together. With my first playthrough on normal difficulty, I had to collect the 18 antique coins, and then on Madhouse difficulty, 33 more. These coins are needed to unlock bonus items and upgrades from little bird cages, and this collect and spend conceit is carried forward into the DLC too. In classic Resident Evil fashion, the more you play and master the base game, the more bonus content you'll unlock that make replaying that campaign easier and more exciting. It all feels awesome and empowering, even if it takes away from the terror a bit. Things feel a lot less frightening when you're wielding a pistol that blows enemies into pieces. In short, despite the massive changes in art direction, this is a Resident Evil game through and through. If you've completed one of these before, you kind of know what you're in for here. A pretty manageable experience with a few completely out-of-pocket curveballs. Yet RE7 is probably the most unique one in the series to complete. Putting Resident Evil in first person was a genius move. The game was designed around it, and it's clear to see how much thought the developers put into making this choice reverberate through the entire narrative design. This game delights in its extremes. I've already mentioned that completionists will have a different attitude towards any given horror game, since you're going to be plumbing through the depths to do every little thing possible. But I just want to call out a couple of things throughout the main campaign that are incredibly effective at keeping the player on their toes. Longtime Resident Evil fans will appreciate how this game basically reinvents what to expect from the series. The first hour or so of the game are undeniably the scariest parts. The Baker house feels so unfamiliar from any other Resident Evil environment. You can practically smell the mold and filth covering every inch of this mansion. It's gross, and honestly, that's really difficult to pull off in a game because we're used to the power of fantasy that games provide. But in an interview with Forbes magazine, producer Masashika Kawada said that they wanted RE7 to embody the core of what an RE experience is. Elements of fear and horror, plus the ability to overcome it. So you're definitely building up towards the power fantasy, but this game starts you off so low that it feels even better when you're eventually running around the mansion with a grenade launcher and a magnum. This game was also the first one to feature an American narrative designer, a man named Richard Pierce. And it shows. If you've only played the recent remakes of the original games, you might not notice it, but Resident Evil dialogue has always been just a little goofy, and nothing wrong with that. You can be goofy and scary at the same time. But since this game is set in such a specific location in the American South, the devs wanted to have that extra layer of authenticity. In an interview with Vice, the game director Koshi Nakanishi said, "Hiring Richard meant the dialogue got polished in a way that didn't sound like it was being just translated from the original Japanese script. He brought a layer of believability to its setting. And personally speaking, I think it pays off. The character work is great, and it's made all the more horrifying by how real it feels. Graphically speaking, this game really holds up. Even though it's a game from 2017, which, by the way, 7 years ago, doesn't feel like that. The art direction is so stellar and the environments are so detailed that it still looks incredible. This game made me want to get a tetanus shot. If you don't like bugs, maybe skip this one because it will probably give you nightmares about centipedes the size of your hand and gross wasps larger than a house cat. There are several really smart design changes centered around the first-person perspective. Obviously, you're seeing the world through Ethan's eyes. This means looting around the house feels a lot different. This also amps up the terror, especially in the beginning of the game, where you basically have a pocket knife and the world's least powerful sidearm to carry you through. You have to be stealthy if you don't want to immediately get caught and killed. Creeping around the house, sneaking behind the furniture so you don't get grabbed by Papa Baker is thrilling. It's really easy to miss items and collectibles, so the designers made a consumable item that basically gives you X-ray vision for a short period of time. This makes it easy to find herbs and scrounge around for ammo, and is basically a godsend if you're trying to find all the antique coins or bobblehead statues to destroy. The combat is definitely slower than other RE games, especially 5, but this feels like a really deliberate choice. Your first playthrough, you're going to be absolutely terrified, moving slowly through the house and surrounding areas, trying to figure out how things loop back and connect to each other. If they made things feel fast and chaotic, it wouldn't jive with the tone they so carefully constructed in the beginning. The way the game teaches you to move carefully through the environment pays off massively later on when you need to do a speed run. Interestingly, there aren't actually very many enemies in the game, which supports the slower paced combat. There are the members of the Baker family, but they mostly show up as big boss battles. Instead of regular zombies or dogs or lickers like you might see in other Resident Evil titles, you'll fight the molded, blobby looking oily skinned guys. They look like a garbage bag filled with knives came to life and shamble through a hallway just to bite you. The first time you encounter them in the basement of the house, it's nightmarish. But eventually you realize that they can't go through doors and you'll have a good laugh about it. Boss fights in the base game are awesome, except for maybe the very last one. They feel extremely personal and have good gimmicks. Mama Baker is one of the most disgusting battles I've ever fought. And the location, a ruined greenhouse, feels totally new and innovative. The puzzles are awesome in this game, and they even sort of make sense in the world. One of the hallmarks of the series has always been that there are weird puzzles to solve amidst this zombie violence. 7 continues that trend, and the justification is kind of that the son of the family, Lucas, is basically Jigsaw, When you're collecting all the files, you'll find evidence of him building traps and talking about hiding things behind locks and such. This also helps set up one of the best parts of the game, where you have to play through a death trap twice. Once as one of Lucas's murder victims, and once again as Ethan, using the knowledge from the victim's failure to cheat death and get your revenge. There are a bunch of cool set pieces in RE7. Some of the most memorable in the series. I mean, it's not Chris Redfield punching through a boulder by any means, but we've still got some pretty cool shit, like a boss fight in a chain link cage where you wield a chainsaw. There are no quick time events, which was a departure from games like it at the time. The devs felt they were immersion breaking in the first person view and didn't really feel like they'd work all too well in VR. The story is up and down like any Resident Evil game. It takes itself exactly the right amount of serious in my opinion. There are 2 different endings depending on a choice you make about 2/3 of the way through the game, which is cool. I like how the characters were developed and the pacing is great, though Zoe definitely feels a little thin even with the DLC pack named after her. I like how the plot eventually ties back into the rest of the series, and I love the Easter eggs that point towards events in the older games. It's an easy story to finish and a very fun one. I didn't mind playing through the game multiple times to see both endings. Playing through these games multiple times is a staple at this point, and Capcom has mastered what it makes doing so addictive and enjoyable. Both the End of Zoe and Not a Hero DLCs must be completed more than once, but the gameplay is different and the story is intriguing enough that I didn't really mind doing so to a point. When it came down to it, it was completing the banned footage DLC that really wrecked me. One single challenge pack in this DLC is what it takes to make this game go from a complete it to a finish it. Very early on in Resident Evil 7, Ethan's left hand gets absolutely chopped off. Mia pins him to the wall with a knife, and it's right up there with the Dead Space 2 eye needle thing being one of the worst things I've seen in a game. You just can't help but squirm. What I'm trying to say is, Ethan knows the value of a hand. And after playing what feels like 1,000 rounds of 21 in the banned footage volume 2 DLC, I can confidently say I will never look at a hand of cards ever again. I mentioned how all the collective DLCs adds a lot of trophies to the mix to deal with. No big deal, I love collecting trophies and achievements. But all of these modes have some kind of in-game achievements or rewards you get for completing certain tasks. This is where the true completionist element of a Resident Evil game comes into play. Obviously the trophies are guidelines and roadmaps to doing most of these things. But very often in all of these games, there are rewards or tasks that you must complete outside of the trophy list in order to complete the game. But with that said, this minigame pack includes some in-game achievements, and combined with the RNG aspect of playing cards, it took me way long to complete. Essentially in 21, you're trying to win a hand of cards, not the most complicated thing in the world. But instead of betting money, you're taking damage, and you can even die. There is kind of a story mode element when you first play the game that's relatively straightforward and easy. It's designed to show you how to play this version of 21. This version of 21 is actually pretty simple, considering that there's only one of each card in the deck. You also get trump cards, which allow you to change the mechanics of a round. It might be to put a card back in the deck, swap with your opponent, and as you complete more of these in-game achievements, you unlock more wild cards, which will help you unlock the more difficult achievements. After beating the story mode, you unlock Survivor and Survivor Plus modes, respectively. Those modes are difficult in that they have even bigger in-game achievements that you must conquer. There are 3 in total that have ruined my life for the last several years. The first one was to beat Survivor Plus without taking a single hit of damage. To give you an idea, every time you fight an opponent in Survivor Plus, they have 10 hit points. Every time you win a round, you take away 1 hit point by base. Now you do get a lot of wild cards and trump cards that will protect you from taking damage, as well as add more damage to the ledger. So theoretically speaking, you could fight an enemy and you could use a bunch of bet ups, which will make you knock him out in 1 round. The best thing I can recommend to do this achievement is to literally do it only after you've beaten the other 12 achievements that are available. Now the remaining 2 are even worse than this. There is a character known as Mr. Big Head. He's a weird bobblehead looking character. His whole gimmick is that he shows up so little, and I mean so little. I have played thousands and thousands of rounds of Survivor Plus 21 just to fight Mr. Big Head. And in those rounds, there's an achievement for beating him once and beating him twice. This has taken me so long for so many years, that I've had to put the game down, walk away, complete something else, get reminded I haven't done this game yet, turn back around and continue. As much as I'll go back for completing the base game multiple times, having to play through multiple difficulties for all the DLC campaigns definitely started to feel like a chore. I like most of the other stuff in the banned footage packs. The horde modes are always cool. It's a neat spin on mercenaries. There's some escape room style scenes that are fun and puzzly to solve. But tying trophies and in-game unlockables to an RNG based game is asinine. You don't even get anything for really doing so. You unlock more trump cards, but by the time you're done, there's no need to use them. It's such a bummer because otherwise this game is really rewarding. As much as I miss the unlockable costumes from other Resident Evil games, RE7's completion bonuses, at the very least, are pretty solid. Now look, I love completing Resident Evil games. They reward completionists and always give the player some new tools to mess around with. Even if I didn't love just how much RE7 asked of the player, I still appreciated the completion rewards. The first time you beat the game, you will unlock a whole bunch of stuff. The hardest difficulty, Madhouse mode, the Albert's gun, a super powerful handgun, something called the Secrets of Defense, which makes Ethan's block much better. But it isn't until you complete the speed run that you get the really good stuff. X-ray glasses, which lets you look for items, the walking shoes, which lets you run and walk at a pretty good speed, and the circular saw. The saw is extremely good at shredding molded. Completing the story mode on Madhouse difficulty gives you the classic infinite ammo cheat, which is always a delight to earn. Unlockable rewards in Not a Hero and End of Zoe are echoes of the base game. Beat each campaign once to unlock a harder difficulty and a handful of neat items. Once you beat the hardest difficulty, you'll unlock unlimited ammo for certain weapons, and there are achievements that are pretty tough in between that you have to do. Certain runs or items or elements that must be required. In Not a Hero, you get to play as the infamous Chris Redfield, which is pretty great and a nice piece of fan service. This is easily the most action-oriented piece of the DLC. Maybe a bit of a preview of where they would take the series with Resident Evil 8. It's a short little campaign, about 2 hours maybe, though there is a bonus reward for beating the campaign in under an hour, an easy deflect option. Not a Hero also brings back coins, and collecting all 10 of these unlocks the fast walk option. There are only 2 trophies to earn in Not a Hero mode, but you'll probably still end up playing through it at least 3 or 4 times to unlock everything. End of Zoe is short, but has more to do than Not a Hero. The game places the player in the shoes of heretofore unheard of Baker family member Joe Baker on a quest to rescue his niece Zoe. This mode has a few more trophies and unlocks than you may expect, and provides its own set of special challenges to overcome. You've got to complete End of Zoe on normal or easy to unlock an alternate title screen, and Joe Must Die difficulty. But then there's the challenge modes you have to conquer on normal difficulty, and then Joe Must Die difficulty. 10 challenges for 2 separate difficulties. In order to be able to do the Joe Must Die difficulty challenges, you have to at the very least beat Joe Must Die mode. It's a crazy amount of content they added, and even if I honestly think it's a little too much to complete, I can't be mad that it's here. The rewards for End of Zoe are what you'd expect when it comes to this type of content. Some cool new weapons, including the Spirit Blade, which allows you to heal upon hit, and you get those awesome punching gloves from the campaign itself. I love all this stuff and would honestly not mind seeing these characters and plotlines show up again in future Resident Evils. At this point, I don't really know how many hours I've spent fully completing Resident Evil 7 and all of its DLC, because I've spent so much time on menus, strategizing, and trying to figure out how I'm going to conquer 21. It's a hell of a task because of 21, especially because of Survivor Plus mode. This is a challenge that I recommend only to get the trophies and the story done. Do not do the in-game rewards. Resident Evil has a history of reinventing itself, and 7 is the best example of the series doing so. It's a scary time, but a fun one, and honestly a fantastic entry point to anyone in the franchise who has never played a Resident Evil game before. Just if you are going full completionist, just skip the RNG related in-game achievements and focus on getting the platinum and beyond, and you'll have a blast. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys very soon. Bye.